Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Biblio Fitness. Hope everyone has a great day today. Make some amazing gains and picks up a book and reads a few pages. So today we're going to go ahead and basically go with part two, probably the most crucial part, in the conversation between Ivan and Alyosha, which is when Ivan presents Alyosha with his this little poem that he created in a set called "The Grand Inquisitor." Because at the end of the episode, at the end of that conversation, before this poem, Alyosha rebuts, all these things that Ivan was saying. That oh yeah, there is one person that could forgive all for all, a man that gave up his innocent blood for everyone, so that everyone can forgive. And that's Jesus, right? The man that the Son of God, and where God in His infinite wisdom let His Son get tortured in the most inhumane way possible, but that's somehow seen as a moral righteousness in Christianity. But that's a conversation for another time. So the Grand Inquisitor is a poem which Jesus does walk the earth one more time, and Ivan gives like a little bit of a literary preface, as he says, that during the 16, 15, like the 14, 15, and 16th centuries, there was a lot of stories of Virgin Mary or saints or Jesus or God coming down and performing miracles and things of that nature, like and in plays and writings and stuff like that, and biographies of people swearing that someone healed them and stuff like that. So the religious fervor during those times was at its peak, and during that time was the glorious Spanish Inquisition, where heretics and even other Christians and Jews were getting burned at the stake on a daily basis. This is where Jesus comes in. This is the era that Jesus comes down, and it's in Seville, Spain, which is the very heart of the whole Inquisition. Well, it first started in France, but Spain is very Catholic, as you know. And so he goes into one of these towns of Seville, and just the day before, like almost 100 heretics were burned at the stake, right? And he walks down, and he comes with the same human appearance as he did when he walked 1,500 years before. This is in the 1500s. As a man, but as he's walking through the town, people are enticed to him. People are drawn to him. Somehow people know who he is. Somehow people know, it's like, yo, this is Jesus. He's exuding this air and this vibe and this energy of enlightenment, of love, of power, of magnanimity. And people start coming to him, and he has healing properties. Like if you touch a garment, you are being healed. And there's an old man that he's been blind since he was a young kid, comes up to him and is like, please, Lord, heal my blindness so that I could see you. And Jesus touched him, and the scales fall from his eyes, and he could see once again. And as he continues to walk, there's a procession coming out of the cathedral of a little girl, like a 7-year-old little girl with an open casket. The kid just recently deceased, obviously, and the only child of some noble citizen, as Ivan likes to put it, or as Ivan puts it. And so everyone starts screaming to the mom, like, oh, this man can heal her. This man could bring her back to life. This man could bring back your daughter. And so the woman comes up to him and starts weeping, like, oh, if it's really you, please bring her back to me. And he, with his love and compassion, he does like some little Latin thing. I forgot what it actually says. But the girl comes back to life. She's still holding her flowers as she gets out of the casket, and she's completely astonished that she's alive. I mean, what sort of a mind fuck would that be? Imagine you died, you prepared yourself mentally to die, and you saw yourself dying, and then you wake up and you're like, wait, what? It's probably quite the intense acclimation period. And then while this is going on, the Grand Inquisitor is there. The Grand Inquisitor of the town, or whatever the fuck. An old man of 90 years old, but still very short, still very straight, still very strong. Well, not strong, but like strong mentally, cognitively. He hasn't lost a step. And he sees all this with anger. And he gets his guards and he's like, yo, go take this fool and take him to prison. And so they do. And people part ways because of the power and the force that this Grand Inquisitor has. That people know this guy is Jesus, but they still part like the Red Sea to do what he says. That's the type of obedience that they had towards the church. And that was the way for a very long time, right? And so they take him to jail. And in that jail, the Grand Inquisitor walks in at night. And he goes to him and is like, is that you? Is that really you? And the whole time, Jesus doesn't talk. Throughout the whole story, Jesus does not talk. And so the Inquisitor goes to him and is like, I don't need your answer. Like, there's nothing more that you can add on to what you've already said. And you have no right to add on to what you've already said. Like, why are you here? Why are you intruding upon our work? Like, you left. You left it up to the Pope. You left it up to the church to continue to work. Why are you here interfering? Because that's what you're doing. And you know that you're here to interfere. And he starts basically going off on how he was wrong. And he goes off on, do you see, like he goes and he looks at, he asks him, like, do you see how they are outside? Do you see how you left your flock? Are you okay? Are you happy with this? Are you happy with our direction? And he goes ahead and gets at him with the 3 temptations. You know, the whole famous story of how Jesus went into the desert and starved himself for 40 days. And he was presented by a malevolent spirit for 3 temptations. And it's a mind fuck. So the first temptation was the devil, or whatever you want to call it. In the Brothers Karamazov, in the poem, Ivan describes it as or the Grand Inquisitor describes it as the dreadful intellectual spirit. And they don't call him devil. Which I think is a very important distinction, right? You know, because devil always automatically means malevolent, and it doesn't go that way. So the first temptation that the spirit presents, or you know, goes that way to Jesus while he's in the desert, starving and raving mad, is like, you want to go out into the world empty-handed, just looking for people to believe in you with nothing to show for it. You know, like freedom of faith. Like, you just want people to take you up on faith. But if you would grab a rock, grab these hot rocks and turn them into bread, people will follow you. People will be obedient to you. People will be like sheep to you because you are providing them with bread. And if you provide them with bread, you alleviate so many issues, right? Like, don't expect a hungry man to be virtuous. You know, fill him up and then ask him for virtue. You know, a lot of people say that there is no crime. If there would be no crime if everyone would have food. Especially back then. You know, a lot of times people kill and murder and steal for food. And, you know, that's the first temptation. It's like, why are you going to come out to the world empty-handed just looking for people to come and love you? But and this is the choice to make. Either provide them with earthly bread or freedom to choose. He preferred freedom. He wanted people to believe in him out of their own volition, to just take him up on faith, but not give him earthly bread. They have to give up their earthly bread in order to believe in him. Not many people can do that. You know what I'm saying? And that's what the Grand Inquisitor tells him. Like, dude, you could have gotten people to obey you with the banner of bread. You could have gotten so many people to follow you, everyone to follow you. Like how do you, you could make that choice, but not everyone else is God. Who the hell is going to pick eternal salvation and freedom somewhere over there and not have bread and be starving? You know, not many people are going to be able to make that choice. Very, very small amount of people are going to be able to make that choice. So you fucked them right then and there. You fucked them. You could have had them in the palm of your hands. Instead of you let them flock all over the place and then giving them freedom, you've also provided with the ability to destroy your own kingdom. Because now those people that now you didn't give them food and you're not providing for them, they're going to look somewhere else. They're going to look somewhere else to alleviate their issues. They're going to look somewhere else, someone else that's going to provide them with the fire from heaven, with bread, with the means for their own survival. And I guess that's how he talks about the whole socialism thing, how, he talks about it, the Grand Inquisitor, how these people are trying to make another Tower of Babel. And it's not going to be constructed again, but the man who provides them with food will be able to bring them everyone together if you give them their daily bread, if you give them their daily substance. But Jesus preferred freedom. And the Grand Inquisitor goes on to tell him, like, why would you pick freedom? Freedom is a burden. Most people don't want to be free. Most people want to look to someone to bow down to. Most people don't want that responsibility. Most people don't want the suffering and the misery and all that shit that comes with freedom. People don't want to be free. People give up their freedom to be free, in a way. I hope that makes sense. But people give up their personal freedom to be free spiritually, to just let it go and just have people tell you what to do. That's how most people are. That's why there's more sheep than wolves, right? Or sheep than shepherds. I guess that would be more appropriate. And then what was the second temptation? Oh, the second temptation was, so he goes on with the bread thing. And then he goes to tell him, takes him to the top of some tower or some citadel or whatever. And he's telling him, hey, why don't you jump off? Like the Spirit's telling Jesus. And why don't you jump off? It is said that if you are the Son of God and you jump off, the angels of heaven will come down and pick you back up because they don't want you to die. And he didn't do it because, he didn't want to do the miracle. He didn't want to rely on a miracle for his faith in God. And then now it's how the Inquisitor makes that distinction. You didn't jump off. You think that, people don't need miracles to believe in you, but most people do. Most people go to religions for a miracle. They look more for the miracle than the God. They need that validation. They need something to prove to them, that an undisputable fact that could bring them all together, right? These miracles, these things that make it undisputable that you are God. And how he tells them, like, when you were on the nail on the cross, the people were mocking you and telling you, if you calm down, we'll definitely believe you. But you didn't do it because you didn't want people to rely and people come to you out of miracles and bread. Makes no sense. You wanted people to be free and relying on faith instead of something that they can see, something that they can watch, something that they can't refute. And he goes on to talk about, you could have brought everyone together with miracles. Everyone wants to believe in something that everyone else can believe in, right? That's why he goes on to say that there's been so many wars of people killing each other and telling you, you have to believe in our God or death to you and all your gods. Like there's this subconscious need throughout the epochs of a universal religion, of something everyone could believe in, not just you and me, but everyone. That is some innate need that we have, that we all could come together under one banner. But Jesus didn't do it. Jesus preferred people to believe in on faith, take it up on faith, and their own volition if they're God, if they're Son of God. And then the last one is that when the devil or the spirit or whatever offered him all the kingdoms of the earth. Take the robe of Caesar and become become Caesar of the world. And he didn't take it. And the Grand Inquisitor goes on to tell him, you didn't take the banners. Why didn't you? You could have been the universal religion. You could have had people's daily bread. You could have had them by miracles. And you could have had them all under one government. You could have dictated everything. But you didn't do it. Why didn't you? But we did. That's what the Grand Inquisitor says. He says, but we did. We did take up the robe, the purple robe. We did take up the name of Caesar because we understood your mistake. We're correcting what you didn't do. Because that is the ideal, right? The universal religion. Now, the Catholic Church will run everything. That is, it's the conclusion, the ideal conclusion of all the work that they've done. And those three temptations, right, is all about freedom of choice. Not being coerced, not being told, not being blatant in your face that okay, this is God. Like, there's no refuting that. And the Grand Inquisitor was like, you had these choices. Why did you do that? Like, who was really right, you or the Spirit? Because you had it in the palm of your hands to bring everyone together. Instead of what you did, you scattered everyone all over the place. Because now, some people might believe in you, but then other people won't. Because you have nothing to show for it. And people, when their freedom and their intellectual freedom, are going to find reasons to refute you, to hate you, because you don't provide anything for them. Like you led the downfall of your own church, is what he's telling Jesus. So why are you here? We corrected what you did. For the past 800 years, we didn't follow you, we followed the Spirit. When people come to us with their bread, it wasn't like we turned the stones to bread. They already had the bread. They brought it to them. But when they had bread, it would turn to stone. But when we give them stone, it turns to bread. And obviously that's an analogy that people are desperate. They don't know what to do. They can't feed themselves. They have no idea how to involve themselves. They have no idea how to fulfill themselves. And so they give up everything to the church. And the church is there in their infinite wisdom, willing to take on the sufferings of the world because, these people need something to follow. They need someone to follow. They need someone to bow down to. They need someone that they could go and be like, oh my God, they're just so infinitely, like they're just so, like I can't they're beyond comprehension for most people. And then he goes on to say that the three things that bring all these feeble-minded individuals is mystery, miracles, and authority. Because he goes on to talk about how, he goes on to tell Jesus, you think too much of human beings if you think that they're gonna, that out of their own volition, they're gonna believe in you. You thought too much of them. You overestimated them. You really think that most people are gonna give up bread and go crazy and starve just for you? You think people are no longer gonna believe in miracles? They're just gonna take everything on faith, that they're gonna, but what happens with those people? Because you haven't come around. Jesus hasn't come down. So eventually people are going to lose hope. There is no hope. There's no message being displayed to them that the end times is coming. Eventually they're going to lose hope. Eventually they are going to hate you. And you have no authority. So there are all these different religions and all these different potential answers to the eternal questions arising because he didn't take over everything. He didn't take he didn't take up the mantle. And then he goes on to say, which I think is one of the most important aspects of the whole poem, is that he's like, the church is taking upon themselves to build up this great lie, the mystery of it all, right? Because if you think about it, most people, if they had to choose the way that Jesus chose, they would fail. Most people would fail. Most people are not going to starve themselves only eating insects and leaves. It's not going to happen, right? People are not going to be able to make that choice. People are not going to be able to, step back and not need miracles and know that they're eventually going to make it somewhere. People know that eventually, the kingdom of heaven will come down. Not many people are going to be able to make that choice and live out in the desert and be naked in the fucking wilderness and away from society and all this shit, which is what you need to do to get on Jesus's level, right? And he goes on to say that there was a prophecy of some guy saying that 12,000 people from every tribe would be the first to resurrect with Jesus. And he's like, all right, so you got these tens of thousands of people, but what about the rest of the others? What happens to them? You don't care about them? I thought you loved everyone. I thought you were a compassionate human being. I thought you loved them more than you love yourself. But with the actions you took, you damned them. You damned them to eternity because they know not most people are going to be able to make the same decisions as you did. And that's the big lie, right? Because that means most people are going to hell because they won't be able to make those choices. And those are the choices you need to go to heaven, to be like Jesus, to be the virtuous person that you need to be in order to get there. And that's the big lie that the church holds back. And he goes on to say that we corrected what you did, and we take up on this lie. We take up this lie. We take up this grand mystery and help people guide them. Like they don't know where they're going, but at least they're happy. Because to be free and happy, you can't have both for most people. People want to be happy in servitude. Is what he's saying. People love being in servitude. People love being told what to do. People love giving up their responsibilities and every single choice that they have because freedom is too big of a burden to carry for most people. Which is why a lot of people go to church and a lot of people go to all these different religions and they dump their responsibilities and their hopes and their dreams on a pastor or a pontiff or whatever the case may be, right? Which is a very interesting point. And then and the inquisitor goes on to talk about how he was one of those men. He could have been one of those chosen few of Jesus because he was out in the wilderness raving mad, eating insects. But then he had an epiphany. It's like, am I going to go with the few or can I go out and help the rest? Can I go out and help the humble? What about them? They're going to be left behind because of your choices. And he comes back and he's like, you know what? I know that most of these people are not going to make it to heaven, but as long as I can help them be happy, as long as they're here, then that's fine. And he goes on to talk about the Inquisition. It's like, look at what we've had to do because of you. We've had to kill, we've had to coerce, we've had to burn people, we've had to eliminate enemies because you didn't want to take up the mantle of Caesar. You let everyone scatter to their own tribes and their own beliefs, and we're just trying to complete your work, but we're correcting the way you did it. So it's kind of a mindfuck, if you think about it. Which is why I've always been the case, and Nietzsche brought that up, is like most people don't believe in the teachings of Jesus, most people believe in the teachings of Paul, right? It's Paul who basically the man who runs Christianity. It shouldn't even be Christianity. It should be Paul Lenin. I don't know. I'm not a fucking wordsmith. But most people follow the teachings of Paul, not the teachings of Jesus, because most people can't be Jesus. If you think about it, it's not even these three temptations, right? What does Jesus say? To turn the other cheek, to not sin in the judgment of others, to not be tempted to not fall into the temptations of the world with money and wealth and fame and worshiping false idols like money and fame and all this shit. Everyone has failed. Most people have failed, right? Even most people that say they're Christians have failed. Most people that say they're Christians, guess what? You're going to hell by your own fucking standards. Because most people don't even know what the fuck they're believing in. Most people are not Jesus. Most people are not going to be able to go raving mad and starve themselves to death and get away from the temptations of the world and all the shit to get to heaven. That's not possible, except for a few people who are hidden in the desert somewhere. That's it. And that's what the Inquisitor tells them. Like, weren't you here supposed to help everyone? Except you damned everyone with your choices. So we're just correcting what you did. We're leading the flock that you led away. Which is fucking crazy. It's a mile. And Alyosha hears all this. And I'm just like, bro, you're fucking crazy, bro. Like, dude, like, no. Like, why are you talking about the Spanish Inquisition? These people are only out to accumulate power and wealth. It's nothing to do with God. Your Inquisitor doesn't believe in God. And it's like, it doesn't even matter. Ivan goes like, but why can't there be one dude that saw the truth and is like, you know what? I want to help them. I want to help those poor people that have no chance of salvation. But you know what? As long as I can help alleviate the burden that they have now and make them happy now, then I'm just doing my part. And who knows how many of those people with that sort of weird, twisted logic of justice have been pontiffs or popes, more commonly known as. What happens? What if that's the case? How many of those sort of men, like my old Inquisitor, have been leaders of this Roman army and this Roman ideal domination stuff? And alyosha gets really mad about that. He's like, well, what, you don't believe in God? What are you going to do? You're like, you're going to join the because he talks about the Freemasons, that they have their own little spiritual idealistic shit. And that's probably what the Catholic Church doesn't like them, because it intrudes upon their ability to unite everyone. And he always says, well, you're going to be a Mason too. It's not like you believe in God. And he's like, and then he goes on to say, like, with these sort of thoughts in your head, with this complete cynicism on love, because if that's love, to lie, to alleviate people's burden, not that pure love, then what's going to keep you going? And he's like, oh, my basements until I'm 30. I'm not going to care. Like, it's not like he asked Alyosha, like, well, why were you getting mad? It's just a poem from a guy. I mean, like, it's not like I'm going to join the Jesuits and help lead people. I don't care about that shit. I just want to live until I'm 30 and I'm done with it. And I was just like, bro, like, are you even gonna be able to live until you're 30 with these thoughts in your head? You're gonna want to kill yourself. He's like, no, there's one thing that supplants all that helps me go. And he says, my karamazov basins. And Alyosha hits him with, oh, you mean everything is permitted? And with that, Ivan goes pale. And he's like, oh shit, yeah. He's like, well, you know what? I'm not gonna recant what I said. Everything is permitted in my life, because there's no more ideal, there's no more Jesus, there's no God. So everything's permitted. There's no structure holding it all together. This is literally one of my favorite parts, because if you really think about it, most people are going to hell. Even if you pray to your God, you are not walking in the same virtue that is required to be like Jesus in order to get to heaven, right? And he really did go with his chosen few, because very, very small amount of people are going to be willing to give up everything, give up all material, give up all possessions, and go out in the wild somewhere and rave mad, starving to death, talking to God. Most people are not going to be able to do that. Most people are constricted by material wealth. Most people are constricted by these false idols that Jesus got mad when he went into the church and he started knocking everything down. He's like, well, don't worship false idols. How many of us worship false idols? How many of us worship money and fame and cars and all this shit, all this materialism that has been brought about because of our separation from values of the Judeo-Christian tradition? None of us are going to heaven. None of us. Because none of us are like Jesus. I mean, that's my take home. That's my takeaway from it. That's why I really do love the Grand Inquisitor, and that's why I love Ivan. Because I agree with him. Everything permitted has its price. And that little sentence in there, those 3 words, is another topic that we're going to discuss in a future video, because it's going to come to a head very soon, that everything is permitted thing. And that's going to be quite a doozy. So, hope you all enjoyed. Hope you all have a great time today. If you have any questions or you have any rebuttals for me, feel free to drop them down below. I'd be love to have these sort of discussions. So, hope you all have a great day. Love you all. Peace.